Hi, welcome to another edition of North Shore Journal. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and I have with me good friend Leighton O'Connor. And Leighton's been on our show 3 or 4 times, I guess, already.
Yeah,
right?
Thanks for having me again.
Well, you're welcome, Leighton. You're a good guest to have. Very interesting person, I might say to our audience.
Hope you mean that in a good way.
I absolutely mean that in a good way. And Leighton's been on before in his wearing his hat covering international sailboat races and rubbing elbows with the glitterati in Monaco and exotic places like that. But today he's going to be telling us about a mission trip that you took to Guatemala.
Correct.
In March, this past March. We're sitting here. It's the middle of May, for the Calvary Christian Church, of which you are a volunteer minister, right?
Correct.
And we'll get into that a little bit later. Which the Calvary Church which is in Linfield.
Right.
So this was an 8-day trip. You had a team of people with you. To kind of give us an overview, because we're going to watch a little video here in a couple of minutes of the trip. So give us kind of an overview.
So we had 10 people that went on the trip. Just about everybody was from our church. My daughter went along, her first mission trip. She's 18. 18, okay. And somebody from one of our daughter churches went along also. Mm-hmm. It was just a great trip. Just people really got along well, and we did a lot of work. And we'll see that work in a second here.
It was a lot of work. Now, who subsidizes? Who pays for the trip over? Who pays for your accommodations, your food?
Each person is responsible for raising their own funds. Mm-hmm. So we're given how much the trip is going to cost. So that includes lodging, meals, travel, out-of-pocket expenses. Mm-hmm. Anything we need on the trip is put into the budget, and that's what we need to raise. Mm-hmm. So we personally ask people that we know, can you help me get to Guatemala? Okay. But the church also subsidizes things when we're there. For instance, paint, 200 chairs, desks, teachers' desks. So they actually send quite a bit of money over there before we get there. So we have the things we need to work. Mm-hmm. So, and we're going to see here the materials for the desks, the wood and so forth. Now, are those things that need to be bought, or were they donated by local businesses? Or our church bought them. Oh, your church bought them. Okay. Yeah, they bought them. Did they buy them from local people in Guatemala, or were they shipped over with you? No, by local people. We were hosted by the Walkers, who have been over there for 2 years in Guatemala. Right. And they're missionaries with Assemblies of God, which Calvary Christian Church is members of Assemblies of God. Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about that. That's Darren and Heidi Walker. They're from Washington State. Yeah. And I believe you mentioned to me earlier that they'd been over there for a couple of years with their 3 sons. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about their missionary work. So their missionary work is basically to help children, to help schools. So they would find a school that needs repair, or might need a library, or might need uniforms, or might need teachers. So their job is to go around Guatemala and help these different schools, and also establish churches. Mm-hmm. In the last 2 years, they've probably helped over 20 schools, whether it's desk or painting or building or adding stories to the schools and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you get in contact with these folks? Well, basically, we decide we want to go someplace. We want to do a mission trip. So let's say we were interested in Guatemala. We have 500 missionaries around the world we work with at Calvary and we support. Okay. So depending on where we're going, we contact that missionary and say, would you be interested in hosting us? We'd like to come over and work with you and spend, a week or 2 working on projects you have. And of course, they're more than glad to accommodate that, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm going to ask our control room to cue up this video of your work in Guatemala. It's about a 5-minute video, and we'll watch it, and when it's done, we'll talk a little bit more about what we've seen in the video. So our control room can run that right now.
It's a new day, celebrate, taste and see. Lay down your burdens, trade them in, cause the tide is turning. Let them take what you break and set you free. night. Your love chases guilt away. Your love is an open sky where sin and sickness can't survive. Your love is our past erased. Every bondage has to break. Your love calls your church away to live the way that we were made. Whoa, the price is paid and you have made a way. Whoa, now freedom's in our reach. Whoa, we're reaching out and pulling down your grace. Oh, to be who we long to be, calling on all God's children. Live like you're free, calling on all God's children. Live like you're free. Yeah.
Well, I can see that you've got your little bow down,
I can explain that.
down pat now, don't you? You know what's wonderful, Leighton, is from these videos and some that you've brought before. When you see the faces of little children with happy smiles, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at someone from Guatemala or Beverly or somewhere in Africa. That face, that kind of smile is just infectious, isn't it? Children are children everywhere in the world.
These things with these kids, the thing with these kids is they don't have anything, but they're so happy.
Yeah.
They don't have the cell phones and the games and all that stuff, but they're so happy.
Yeah. So tell us about, we saw a lot of things there, so let's put it in perspective. Now, I know there was a lot of painting going on. Tell us about that.
So, I'm not sure if we have some slides of the school.
I think we'll show that right after we talk about that a little bit.
All right. So, there was an old two-room schoolhouse.
Yeah.
So the Walkers, who were missionaries there, had 2 stories added to the school.
Wow.
So then when we got there, all the rooms needed to be painted. So we're talking 9 rooms, 2 coats of paint each, and also 2 different colors in each room. So one of the guys on the mission trip, Nero, he's also a minister. He's actually a painter by trade. So he was our foreman for the 10 of us and told us where to paint and what to paint. And I hadn't picked up a paintbrush or a roller in 20 years, but...
I guess those shoulders and neck muscles got a good workout,
I think I had more paint on me than the walls. But he said it was pretty good.
Now, I also saw that you were putting together some desks there, and tell us about that.
So, 200 desks.
Yeah.
The school had some desks, but very old.
Yeah.
Probably only about 50 or so.
Yeah, we saw some piles of old rotting desks there.
So we sent money over, the church sent money over to the Walkers to purchase desks.
Yeah.
So the desks get shipped, they're in Guatemala, someplace over there in Central America. They get shipped to the school, so we have to put them together.
Yeah.
So there's a seat, a back, the desk, and the actual frame, and we got to drill the holes and put them together. Polyurethane.
Yeah. And now you did also bring some books with you, and I understand that there aren't a lot of libraries or a lot of books in this area. Tell us about that, Leighton.
So one of the things they want to do is put a library in the school. So I have a lot of publishing connections because I used to represent illustrators. So a lot of people saw my social media posts and said, well, I'll donate books. And then the team members found books, and then we purchased books and had them shipped over there. So we created this library for the kids. It's in Spanish as well as English, or both in the same book. And we created a library, and it's one of the few libraries in that area.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go back through and look at some of the Guatemala stills here. And Leighton, you can just we'll have to control them to start these up, and you can ask them. You can just cue them when you want the next one up, and just talk us through these photos. Oh, there's
So this is Guatemala. We went to a district called Santa Rosa, and we were actually in a village called, my pronunciation is really bad, Guatzapan or Guatzalapan or something like that. So that would be kind of right in the middle of that highlighted area you see there.
okay.
Next slide. So that's our team, 10 of us. This was towards the end of the trip. They actually gave us awards towards the end of the trip. The kids gave us medals and gifts and sang for us. It was just a great ending to the trip. Next slide. So this is how the school started out.
Not
Just-
very
No,
attractive,
this
is it?
is the school before they added the stories and added to it. So the next slide. See, this is adding the stories to it. Adding a ramp up to the second floor, staircasing up to the third floor. The third floor isn't totally done on that shot. That's the school completed. And I think this was taken before we started painting. Yeah. So next slide. So this is when they did the construction. Before we got there were some coats of paint on the wall for primers, but we had to do all these rooms. So this is the inside of one of the old school rooms.
So you just painted right on the cinder block. There's nothing covering the cinder block
Nope.
really there. You don't really
No.
need it there because it's warm climate and
Yeah. These are some of the old desks.
Looks like they've had a little bit of wear and tear,
Yeah.
huh?
So this is us putting together the desk. Next slide. This is our executive pastor at Calvary Christian Church. We have 9 pastors at the church. He's in charge of the whole staff, support staff and the pastors, and he dives right in.
I can
Probably
see that.
he worked harder than most of us. Some of the desk.
Yeah, that brings back memories, huh?
Yeah, all the desks outside.
They couldn't wait to sit down, could they?
Yeah, but we had to paint. We weren't finished painting inside, so all the desks were outside. Just the kids are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so happy. So this is the inside of the library. As you can see, the bookcase to the left. Debbie, who's reading, she is part of our church from the local area. She's a retired teacher, and she's been on 10 mission trips.
Wow.
And she just goes right along. She's like a little Energizer bunny. And she's reading to the kids, and she's the one who coordinated setting up the library and, giving the numbers to the books and all that kind of stuff.
Now, is this a Christian school or is it non-secular?
Christian.
Is it okay?
Yeah, definitely Christian.
Yeah.
Just some of the kids outside.
With their uniforms on.
Yeah, happy kids.
Yeah.
Next slide. This is my daughter and I. One of the final days is one of the days they gave us awards, and she's 18, and this is her first mission trip.
Yeah.
She actually goes to Penguin Hall in Wenham.
Oh, does she? Yeah,
Yeah.
we did a show with
Right,
Molly
yeah.
Martins there.
I actually bumped into you when you were doing that show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So she's there. Is she a teacher at Penguin Hall?
No, she's a junior.
Oh, she's a junior.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So does she, based on her experience, does she want to go to more mission trips?
Yes, I am trying to put together a trip back to Calcutta.
Yeah.
In the fall of 2018, she may come along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we saw in the picture, some of the desks had Child Hope written on them in
Right.
blue. Tell us what
That's
Child
the
Hope
organization that Darren and Heidi Walker have, the missionaries.
Okay.
So that's the name they go by.
Okay.
But they do so much over there. It's just incredible the work they do over there.
Okay.
So they've been there for 2 years. Now they're back in the States. What we do with missionaries, the Assemblies of God, is they'll be in the field for 2 years, and then they have a year off to fundraise and kind of rejuvenate themselves.
Yeah.
Then go back. Now, they were missionaries in Mexico before Guatemala. So their plans are to go back to Guatemala and when the year's out, and they'll go back for another couple of years. But they're over there with their 3 children, and the kids just love it. Yeah.
Now, we're going to change gears a little bit, but not entirely, because we're going to be talking about the 4th annual Running and Walking Well
Right.
5K and Family Day that you're hosting Saturday, June 3rd at Linfield High School. And I might add that this is also in keeping with what we're talking about here,
Right.
because the proceeds are going to support what you've done in the previous road races, went to some of the well projects that you dug in Africa that we talked about last
Right.
time. So tell us a little bit about what's happening there. And you
So-
did have this in Beverly before, didn't you?
Right. So it's our 4th year doing it,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to be at Linfield High School. I've been the race director for the last 4 years. and it was at Lynch Park for the previous 3 years. We had to move it out of Lynch Park we wanted better weather. Because the 5K, there's a lot of serious runners, but there's also a lot of walkers and everything.
Yeah.
And children. And in May, we found the weather was a little bit chilly, and we were dealing with rain. So in order to move it to June, we had to move it to Linfield, because Lynch Park doesn't do anything after Memorial Day. Plus, we had competitions with graduations going on. So we decided to move it to Linfield.
Yeah. Well, you know why I'm laughing? Because we're sitting here, it's what, the 19th of May, and yesterday we had like a 98-degree day.
I know.
So that blows your theories all to
Well, we used to
pieces.
do it around May 4th, May 7th, and we were always kind of battling with rain. We never had a hot day.
Yeah.
And we lost some participation last year because of the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're going to take. I think we have a little 2-minute video that previews the race. So if our control room can cue that up and run that for us.
It's a new day, celebrate, taste and see. Lay down your burdens. Trade them in, 'cause the tide is turning. Let them take what you break and set you free. And we are free indeed. Whoa, the price is paid and you have made a way. Whoa, now freedom's in our reach. Oh, we're reaching out and pulling down your grace. Oh, to be who we long to be. Calling on all God's children. Live like you're free. Calling on all God's children. Live like you're free. What love we're offered to become His sons and daughters. Come alive, come and thrive, come and take Him in.
Well, Leighton, we're going to go right to some of the stills
Okay.
from that video, and we're gonna have some stills of the previous road races, and also of some of the shots from Africa where the wells were dug. And you can kind of talk us through these.
Great.
So you just tell the control room, and you control that for us. Okay. So what are we looking at here?
Well, I think I was here after my last trip to Africa, and I
Right.
showed some of these photos.
Right, uh-huh.
And I went to look at the wells that we had funded over there. This is the first well we funded in Kenya, Mayo's Bridge, and this was from the first 5K. So we dug a well there in Mayo's Bridge between two schools. And next slide. So these are some of the kids at the well. I wish I'd put in a photo earlier before the well was there, because there was no greenery behind the well.
Right.
There was no crops.
Yeah.
Now there's crops behind
There's
the well.
crops, sure.
So it also provides water for the crops and for the children as well. Next slide. So that's the bishop of the area and the local church there in the running well shirt. I brought over a bunch of shirts from the race.
Yeah, you're good now, aren't you? You always count on Leighton for a shirt.
Yeah. And there's one of the children drinking right from the well.
Yeah. Now, before you dug the well, how far would they have to? What would they do for water? How far would they have to walk for water?
I think they had to walk like 5 miles to get water,
to get
4 or
water.
5 miles,
Yeah,
and it just.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is at an orphanage I went to in Kenya, and I had brought over a bunch of shirts, actually from the race, and also someone donated a ton of Vineyard Vine shirts from a sailing race. So this is the football team for the orphanage, and they had no uniform. So now they have a uniform.
There you go.
Yeah. We also bought a cow at that orphanage with the Beverly Rotary's money.
Right. I remember that.
This is a well dedication. The well was put in, I think, around 2015, 2016 in Lila, Tanzania. This was proceeds from our second race, second running well race. And this is, these photos are getting close to a year old, so probably quite a bunch of changes have happened in this area. You'll probably see more crops there now. And this is around 5 schoolhouses. They were building a brand new school there. So this is just such a great benefit to the area and the village that there is also. So this is one of the 3 wells we dug in Ghana, or funded in Ghana, from the proceeds from last year's race, the 3rd race. And we're able to do so many wells because they don't have to dig as deep in Ghana for the water. And the cost of labor is a little bit cheaper, and it's a little bit easier to get the equipment there to dig the wells. So we actually dug 3 wells, and one of them was dug at a prison that needed water. Yeah. This is actually at the prison. A couple of one of the pastors and the people at the prison who work there. This is in Kenya, where I went to in June. This is a future location of another well that we'll probably dig with the proceeds from this year's race. And this is an orphanage. To the left is some crops that need water. To the right is a child care center. And then there's a huge village around the whole area. Next slide. So if you look in the corner, where you see that white fence, that's where the well's going to go. It's already been surveyed and all that, so it's permitted, it's all ready to go. Next slide. This is in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. This is a very dry area. This is near a school, and this is the second location we want to dig a well with the proceeds from this year's race. And the 3rd location we want to dig is in Morocco.
Right.
We've already kind of set that up. It's less money to dig in Morocco. I guess the well can be hand dug rather than drilled, and they don't have to go down as deep.
Yeah.
So this is our volunteers from last year's race. We generally need like 50 to 60 volunteers per race. It
looks like the band shell there at Lynch Park.
That's at Lynch Park. And it's more than just a race. It's really a whole family day. We have face painters, we have a balloon twister, cotton candy, popcorn, blow-up games. Like there's a whole activity game that blows up. There's one of the popcorn machines. The Royal Rangers from our church help out. We have a kids dash. We have a free barbecue on Family Day at 11:30. We have a Brazilian barbecue, which will be at the high school. It's just really a great, great day. We get just as many spectators as races. Yeah. It's a great time for everybody to get together.
How many runners do you expect?
I'm expecting about 400 this year.
400. That's a good number of participants.
Just many spectators as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, they're making cotton candy there. Yeah.
That's one of these blow-up games provided by Total Entertainment in Danvers. Our title sponsor, I should mention, is Covenant Christian Academy in Peabody. So they're our title sponsor for this year, and they'll be helping out a lot.
So let's make sure we stay on that for just a second. June 3rd, 9:30 a.m. Linfield High School, and I think there's a website there.
Runningwalkingwell.org.
So www.runningwalkingwell.org.
And you can do everything on the website.
Yeah.
Donate tons of money. Yeah. You can sign up to be a volunteer and get a free T-shirt. You can sponsor a runner or a walker. You can register online. You can donate something to the silent auction. We have a huge silent auction. So we're always looking for things like whether it's a gift basket or gift card to a restaurant. Last year I think we had $6,000 in silent auction donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Leighton, I really envy you for your for your work.
Thank you.
And your ability to take your spiritual values and put them, as they say, walk the talk, and be the philanthropist that you are, not just with your money. Of course, you're not a billionaire, but with your time, and your energy, and I really respect that. And,
thank you.
Maybe for just 1 second, you can tell us you are a volunteer minister. Tell us in 30 seconds the difference between a minister and a pastor.
So Calvary started a program. If you went through their program for a year or so, or a couple of years, you become a volunteer minister. And I was the first one to complete that program. Yeah. The church is a member of Assemblies of God. I'm currently going to schooling to become a credentialed minister internationally for Assemblies of God. The difference between a minister and a pastor is Minister has a credential, so they can marry, bury people, memorial services, and all that. Pastor doesn't need credentials, but a pastor has been put in charge of a flock or people to take care of. So just about anybody can be a pastor, but somebody needs to put you in charge of a flock to take care of people.
Okay.
So ministers can be pastors. I'm not a pastor yet because someone hasn't put me in charge of a flock.
You don't have your flock yet. Okay.
But I'm sure somebody will soon. That's the expectation.
Well, you're really working your way up to it, I have to say. Leighton, thank you very much for being on the show.
Have a running and walking well wristband.
Well, thank you very much.
About enough for the crew.
I'll wear it proudly. And I'd like to remind our viewers that you have been watching North Shore Journal. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and we'll see you next time.